Check, check. 1, 2, 3.
Check, check. 1, 2, 3.
Friends and family, welcome to this historic Baptist church, to the summer 2024 Baylor Law School commencement. We hope that this day is a memorable and joyous one for you. I'm going to call to the lectern now Brian J. Field to give our invocation. Brian.
Our Father in heaven, we're very grateful for this beautiful day that we could all gather here in celebration of these graduates. We're grateful for the graduates and the work that they've put in and for the experiences that we've had and the things that we've been taught and learned. We're grateful for the relationships that have been formed during our time here at law school, and we pray that those will be relationships that we keep throughout our entire lifetimes. We're very grateful for Baylor Law School and for the fine establishment that it is, that for the wonderful faculty that's sacrificed to help and grow each of the graduates today. And we're grateful for the staff members who have kept the school clean and functioning. And we're grateful for the love and support of our family members and friends, those who are here and those who weren't able to make it. We pray that will bless them. Please help them to have all the things that they need and help us to be good supports in their lives as well. We're eternally grateful for just the opportunities that we've been given. We pray that as we go forward through our lives, that we'll be able to take the talents and the skills that we've acquired during law school and use them in our community for good and to help lift and support our communities and those around us. Father, we're grateful for our Savior Jesus Christ and for the sacrifice that he made for us. We humbly and thankfully offer this prayer and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Class, please be seated. Brian was selected by his classmates to give the invocation, and Brian, they chose very well. Thank you for that lovely prayer. Family, as I look out here, I see the joy and pride on your faces for your beloved graduate, and I want you to know that that is well-earned pride. We worked them very hard. We put forward a lot of challenges. One of our graduates has repeatedly described it to me as hell, but I think in the long run they will be better for it. But also, graduates, you know that you deserve to be recognized for your hard work and for your accomplishments, but you also know that you couldn't have done what you've done without all the people sitting behind you. You get here because of all the people who helped you along the way. Maybe they helped you financially. Maybe they helped you with a kind word. Maybe they did things like read books to you when you were a child that let you get to this incredible academic achievement. So, we will carry forward with our tradition where you stand and you turn and you thank the people who brought you to this point. Class. Family and friends, I want to tell you a little bit about Baylor University and Baylor Law School because I fear that the only thing you've heard about it is from your graduate. And they probably said, Baylor's really hard, Mom, Dad, it's really hard. And I want you to hear a little bit more about it. So, Baylor University was chartered by the Republic of Texas in 1845. Before there was a state of Texas, there was a Baylor. The law school was established 12 years later in 1857, and I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow account of our 167-year history, much less Baylor's nearly 180-year history, but I do want to take a moment to sum up what we're about, and I think it's captured by our motto, by Baylor's motto. which is pro ecclesia, pro texana, pro mundo, for the church, for Texas, for the world. Our purpose, right there in the motto, is service. We serve God and His people. And at the law school, we emphasize that the legal profession is a serving profession. These graduates will go out and do a variety of different things. They will accomplish things in the practice of law, in business, in politics, in the nonprofit space. Their careers will look wildly different one from the other. But the one thing that we tell them must be common is that they must serve. They must serve their families, yes, their clients, but also our profession. One of the things that we also emphasize is that they, as lawyers, are the guardians of the rule of law. If you look back at human civilization, the organizing principle of most societies has been rex est lex. The king is the law. But here in the United States, we can be proud to say that our organizing principle is lex rex. The law is the king. And their job as lawyers is to be a guardian of that principle, to make sure that the law is the king. But you cannot have a society where the law is the king without people who are willing to defend that place, who are willing to put themselves at personal risk to defend the country where the law is the king. So we have a long tradition at the law school of recognizing those who have served our country in uniform in one or another branch of the military. I want to start by recognizing one of our own graduates, Grace Yang. Would you please stand? Grace Yang. Grace served as a captain in the United States Army. Grace, on behalf of all Baylor lawyers, we are especially proud to have you join our ranks today. And I'll ask you to remain standing as anyone here in our audience who has served in any branch of the military, whether active duty, retired, or reserve, would please rise so that we can recognize and thank you. Thank you all for your service to our country. I want to recognize my colleagues who are on the stage with me. Their bios are in the program. They are very accomplished people, and I'm not going to try to hit every detail in their biography, but I want to start by recognizing the president of Baylor University, the 15th president of Baylor University, Dr. Linda Livingstone. I will save a more detailed introduction of her for a bit later when she gives her remarks to the class. I also want to recognize my colleague, Associate Dean Matt Corden, who is here on the stage. Thank you, Matt. Matt is an outstanding teacher. He is a wonderful colleague. He is a student favorite in the classroom, and he has a track record of incredible service and leadership at both the law school and at the university level, where he has previously served as the chair of our faculty senate. When I go home at night, I watch Netflix. Matt is a championship mixed martial arts fighter and a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so when he leaves the law school, he goes and fights other men for fun. And I don't think that's in his printed biography, but I thought you should know. I also want to introduce our Director of Student Affairs, Catherine Sims. Catherine is the person in charge of making sure that our students are not only challenged in law school, but also that they thrive. She has a passion for student well-being and mental health. She also works closely with our student organizations. Catherine's miniature dachshund, Bruiser, is the unofficial mascot of Baylor Law School, and she brings him around when we have certain student functions, and especially when students might need a little bit of a pick-me-up around finals times. But let me tell you, one thing Bruiser never does is step foot inside of the law school, because that would violate Baylor policy. Professor Chris Yeager, my colleague Professor Chris Yeager, is also here on the stage. I'm going to save my introduction for him a little bit later. He'll be our commencement speaker today. I also want to introduce the two faculty members that our students have chosen to hood them. When you achieve a doctorate degree like a Juris Doctor, you get awarded and recognized with the long hood, which you'll see the students receive here in just a little bit. It is a visual representation of their academic success. And they choose who it is that hoods them, and I want to introduce the people that they have chosen. Tom Featherston. Professor Tom Featherston is the Mills Cox Chair of Law. He teaches courses on marital property and trusts and estates. Now, you may not know this, but if you have a will or have established a trust, his influence on the law, whether you know it or not, has influenced your life. It has affected you in some significant way. He is an influential writer and speaker, and he also influences and has influenced legislation. He's an incredible teacher, and he has a knack for making key concepts memorable. Later on today, when you have some private time with your graduate, I want you to ask them what DWAP means. They will know. And if they don't, would you kindly please return their diploma? Tom is also our senior-most faculty member. He is respected by everyone on the law faculty. He is also my neighbor and my friend, who I try not to back over as I'm leaving my driveway, because he is a regular walker in the morning. So far, we've managed not to run over him. I also want to introduce Professor Paul Yanowich. Professor Yanowich is, shortly after his federal appellate clerkship, he joined the Department of Justice. He is an experienced attorney, an experienced trial attorney, and he spent decades representing the United States in complex litigation, including mass tort cases. He has established himself as an excellent teacher, which I think is why our graduating class has chosen him to be one of their hooders today. And I don't know if he knows this, but at least behind his back, the students call him Yanny. I think it's a term of endearment. Now, of course, those on the stage here that I've introduced are only a small fraction of our faculty and staff. So I would like all of you, whether out in the audience or here on stage, who are a member of our faculty or staff, to please rise so that we can recognize you. I want to return to this theme that Baylor Law School is hard. Our students are smart, talented, competitive, and so to be number one in a law school class is an incredible accomplishment, especially here. And so I want to say that so you know how impressive it is that Danny Hayes is the number one student in this graduating class. And so I invite her to the stage to provide her remarks. Danny.
Good morning, everyone. Today marks a monumental milestone in our lives, one that we have tirelessly worked towards and only occasionally complained about, and ultimately triumphed over. Law school has been a journey unlike any other. We've learned to navigate through the biggest textbooks I've ever seen in my life, and decipher seemingly incomprehensible case law from the 1800s, and even memorize an absurd amount of information, especially in the last 2 weeks. But most importantly, we got to learn how to learn from each other. One of the most remarkable aspects of our time here at Baylor was the camaraderie among us. I am immensely proud to be part of this graduating class because, unlike the stereotype, we were not a class of cutthroat competition, but of collaboration and support. We celebrated each other's success and attempted to lift each other up when we were down. I am also proud to say that I never once witnessed a single person raise their hand and offer to play devil's advocate. And I feel like that has to be a pretty rare feat, so I'm eternally grateful for each and every one of you. But as I stand here today, I can't help but feel a whirlwind of emotions. Relief that it's over, excitement, and even a touch of nostalgia, knowing that many of us are done with school for the rest of our lives, something that most of us have been doing for the last 20-something years nonstop. But luckily for us, we chose a profession that allows us to learn something new every single day. The law is a constantly evolving field shaped by changes in society and advancements in technology. And I believe that's possibly truer today than it ever has been before. So as we begin our legal careers, we should make a promise to ourselves to embrace a commitment to lifelong learning, to staying informed and staying curious and staying humble in the face of new challenges and opportunities. So as we move forward from this chapter of late-night library sessions and occasional breakdowns over exams, let's remember that being a lawyer is not just about mastering statutes and case law. It's about understanding human stories and advocating for justice. Let's take a moment to thank those that stood by us through this journey. The families who endured our stressed-out phone calls, the friends who patiently listened while we groaned about having to learn the rule against perpetuities again, and the mentors who guided us with wisdom and patience. As we step out into the world as graduates of this institution, let's carry with us the knowledge that we've gained, the lifelong friendships that we've formed, and the determination to uphold the principles of justice and fairness that brought us to law school in the first place. So here's to our future. Here's to endless opportunities, meaningful contributions to our communities, and lifelong learning. Congratulations to each and every one of you. I'm very proud of all of us. Thank you.
Well done, Danny. I'm a bit surprised you've claimed to have learned the rule against perpetuities. That's quite an accomplishment, but I'm not surprised that you did. It's now my pleasure to introduce the commencement speaker for today. The class has chosen Professor Chris Yeager, and they have chosen well. Professor Yeager teaches contracts to first-year law students and alternative dispute resolution to upper-level students. Professor Yeager has only been on our faculty for a few years, but he has already established himself as an outstanding teacher, mentor, and a top-flight scholar in the field of law and psychology. Along the way in your life, you may have met someone who is trying to decide between getting a PhD or a JD degree. Professor Yeager thinks that's a false choice, and he holds both a PhD in psychology and a law degree. So what that means is he can both diagnose your psychological problem and sue the person who caused it on your behalf. Despite his tremendous academic qualifications, Professor Yeager's scholarship is practical, focusing in part on witness memory, which of course bears upon a witness's credibility and other matters. His teaching is accessible. He is accessible to our students until recently I officed a few doors down from him, and regularly his office would be filled with half a dozen students asking him questions, and he would go be very patient and make sure that he responded to all of them. Professor Yeager and I share a love of episodic television, and so that is something we talk about a lot more than the law, frankly, I'm sorry to say. But class, you have chosen very well. Professor Yeager is a true star on our faculty. Professor Yeager.
Thank you, Dean Counselor. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you to the graduates. Thank you to your friends and family. This is a big day, and I am deeply, deeply honored to be a part of this day for you. Just a small part of your day, but part of your day. This is my first graduation speech, ever. So graduates, I apologize. You're gonna have to listen to me work out the kinks, just like you did in contracts class a couple of years ago when you heard me work out the kinks. Like most of today's graduates, I've been at Baylor Law School about 3 years now, which means this is the first group of students that I've really gotten to see grow up through the ranks of Baylor Law School, and now they're headed out to new and exciting things, and I could not be happier for them. All right, so before I get going, I've got a confession. I find myself very nervous about this speech, like unusually nervous. Like, I can get up and talk about contracts all day long, but a graduation speech feels to me like a very different animal, until I had an insight. Wouldn't the perfect graduation speech be like a 70-minute refresher on the doctrine of consideration? Don't worry, that is a joke, the time and the content, both jokes. What I really want to talk to you about today is storytelling. Storytelling is an important skill for lawyers. Lawyers need to be able to weave facts and law together into persuasive narratives, compelling narratives, to win cases or to get good deals, and we train our students in that. But this morning I want to talk about storytelling from a slightly different angle. I've been thinking a lot lately about how, as humans, our brains are incredibly adept at generating stories. We do it all the time, whether we mean to or not. If we hear some facts, even just a few pieces of information, our brains are going to automatically weave that information together into a coherent story. So for example, if I say to you, Bob had 3 drinks, and on the way home he was in a bad accident, you probably, in your mind just now, made a bunch of inferences. You probably infer Bob's drinks were alcoholic. You probably infer I'm talking about a car accident. You probably infer Bob drove rather than riding as a passenger. You might well have inferred Bob was at fault. I didn't say any of that, but our brains are really, really good at drawing inferences, at filling in the blanks in the information we're given. We can't help it. It's how we make sense of the world. Now, when our brains fill in the gaps like this, they tend to spit out the simplest coherent story that they can, the simplest story that makes sense. Sometimes those easy stories are really, really helpful to us in guiding our life and our behavior, but sometimes they can lead us astray. They can cause us to miss important details. They can cause us to misunderstand the world around us. So today I want to flag for you graduates 3 easy stories that you may at some point tell yourself as you navigate the world as a working attorney. And I want to go ahead and plant a flag in your mind. These easy stories are probably wrong. All right, so easy story number 1. Easy story number 1 sounds something like this. It's so easy for that other lawyer. They're just naturally brilliant. They're way more talented than I am. This is a story you graduates will almost certainly tell yourself at some point early in your career. I know that I did. You'll go to court, and it doesn't have to be court. I'm just going to use court as an example. You'll go to court, and you'll see some lawyer, usually a more senior, experienced lawyer, just deliver an absolutely stunning argument. And it's going to look effortless. It's going to look like they just walked into court and just kind of spouted brilliance without even having to break a sweat. And when you see that happen, what is the easiest story that you can tell yourself? The easiest story is probably that lawyer has the gift. It comes totally naturally to them. I couldn't do that no matter how hard I tried. But think for a second. Why is that the easy story to tell? Because all you saw was the lawyer's presentation. You saw the tip of the iceberg. You did not see the dozens and dozens and dozens of hours the lawyers spent in their office doing research, reviewing the record, trying out different arguments. You didn't see the 20 similar cases that lawyer had tried before this case ever came across their desk, or the thousands of hours experience that helped that lawyer identify the key patterns in the case to begin with. When the tip of the iceberg looks really, really great, don't assume there's no iceberg under the water. There's always iceberg under the water. You're well aware of the work that you do because you see it firsthand. All the blood, sweat, and tears that go into an argument, you live it. But the fact you don't see it for others does not mean it's not happening. To give a personal example, you graduates saw me teaching contracts. Some of you my first time through, some of you my second time through. I talk with you for 70 minutes a day about contracts. What you probably didn't see is I was coming in at about 5 a.m. every teaching day, sometimes earlier, reading treatises, researching cases, thinking about how to best present the material to you all. So when things came out smoothly in class, if things came out smoothly in class, that absolutely did not mean those things came easily to me or that they should come easily to you. The law is hard. You've chosen an immensely challenging profession. It gets easier, but it's a process to get there. So please embrace that process. Don't expect to be the world's best lawyer next month. Aim to be a better lawyer next month than you are today. If you can achieve that, more months than not, then you will be great and you will find a sense of joy in your work. On this theme, I just want to interject 5 words of advice I got from my late high school calculus teacher, Miss Pope. Be your own measuring stick. I think that's the best piece of advice I personally have ever gotten. So I'll give you some context. Senior year of high school, I sat next to my buddy Joel in Miss Pope's math class. I was a good math student. I liked math. I worked at it. Joel was an amazing math student, like perfect SAT math score, amazing student, and honestly, he worked at it harder than I did. But every now and then, maybe like 2 or 3 times over the course of the academic year, I would beat Joel's score on some assignment, and when I did, I would celebrate like I just won Olympic gold. Obviously, I was very, very cool in high school, right? So after one of these times, my teacher, Miss Pope, pulled me aside and said to me, "Stop checking whether you beat Joel or not. It doesn't matter. Be your own measuring stick." And those words stuck with me. I find myself saying them to my kids all the time now, and I hope they stick with at least a couple of you today. Early in your practice, when you see some great lawyering, and easy story number 1 is kicking around in your head, remember, they did not get there overnight. You won't get there overnight either, and that's okay. Put in the work, become a better version of you. Be your own measuring stick. All right, easy story number 2. This person did a bad thing, so they're a bad person. Now, when I say it at that general of a level, it sounds almost silly to say. Of course, that's not a good story. But I'm telling you right now, in the day-to-day trenches of adult working life, people tell themselves that story all the time. Psychologists study it. Psychologists call it the fundamental attribution error. So the fundamental attribution error is that when I behave badly or perform poorly, it's because of the context or the situation. But when you behave badly or perform poorly, it's because of your character or your personality. Classic example is if I'm late to a meeting one day, I left on time, but I got stuck in traffic, so I didn't get there until a few minutes late. Mentally, I'm going to say, it's not my fault. I did what I was supposed to do. My lateness doesn't reflect anything deep about me. I got stuck in traffic. Easy story for me to generate. I lived it. But if it's the reverse, if I show up on time, the other person shows up late, and it's because of severe traffic, mentally it's going to be tougher for me to take their perspective. Even if they tell me it's traffic, It's tougher for me to fully imagine their situation. Leaving on time and getting stuck takes real mental effort. It's easier to just say, that other person, irresponsible. Chalk it right up to them, no nuance needed, no context needed. Guess what, graduates? As a lawyer, you are going to find people are not always at their best. Your client may not always be on top of things. Opposing counsel may not always be pleasant to work with. But here's the thing. If you get stuck in the habit of always settling on that easy story, they didn't act how I'd hoped, so they're a bad person, you are going to find that the world is full of bad people, always getting in your way, time and time again, almost like they're out to get you. And so if you find yourself slipping into that pattern of thinking too often, settling on the easy story of everyone who messes up is rude or dumb or in my way, know this. Your brain likes to spit out these easy stories, but if you think about it, you can tell a more nuanced story. It's in your power to do so. Spend the mental energy to tell a more nuanced story. Think of more charitable explanations. This is a very, very psychological way of saying, give others grace. If you do it, not only is it kinder to them, but in the long run, it's kinder to you too. All right, easy story number 3. I got here all on my own. I did it all by myself. In a few minutes, graduates, you're going to walk across this stage, and people are going to clap for you and all the great things that you've accomplished. And that's all well and good. They should clap. But when the salient facts you're living are you're up on a stage, you're the one up here, and everyone out there is clapping for you, what's the easy story? The easy story is you yourself have achieved this thing. You're the one who did it. After all, you're the one getting clapped for, right? To be clear, again, you deserve the applause. Graduating from Baylor Law School is a major, major accomplishment. But even though you're the one walking the stage, I promise you did not get there alone. And start with the crowd here today. Your parents, your siblings, your spouses or significant others, your friends. These people have made it possible for you to get here. All of them have put your needs above their own needs at some point in time to help mold you into the person who's going to walk across this stage today. But it's not just the people here today. Take a minute. Think of a couple examples beyond the crowd about all the people who have invested in you throughout your life, who contributed in some way to the way you think about the world, and who would feel some small sliver of pride at what you've accomplished over these last 3 years. Talking about your teachers, back to pre-K, kindergarten, the community you grew up in, your church, your soccer coach, your family friends. Every single one of you is the product of an investment of so many people. And it is hard to keep that front and center in your mind. It's such a complicated story. Much more complicated than, I did this cool thing, me. But the complicated story is the truth. And when you think about that more complicated story, when you really recognize that you did not get here on your own, you can start to understand the deep obligation that comes with being a lawyer. You're leaving Baylor with a special set of skills, a set of skills that allow you to serve others who need help. Let me tell you, no one is ever excited about calling a lawyer. No one's looking for the chance to call a lawyer. They call a lawyer when their problems are too complicated or too big for them to solve themselves. And you will have the ability to help, to serve others in their time of need. And it is by serving others that you repay the investment that so many people have put into you to get you where you are today. Our Dean Emeritus, Brad Tobin, gave a lot of great graduation speeches. And he'd always include a quote that I love, a quote often attributed to the Anglican cleric John Wesley. And the quote is this: "Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can." As a lawyer, you will have the ability and privilege to do more good than many of your fellow humans, and to do a special kind of good for your fellow humans. Don't lose track of that in your story. All right, So those are the 3 easy stories I wanted to flag for you. 1, it comes so easily to them, they have some gift that I don't. 2, doing a bad thing makes one a bad person. 3, I got here all on my own and it's all about me. When you're out there in your careers, if you hear one of these easy stories kicking around in your inner monologue, I hope you are skeptical. It is an easy story to tell, but that does not mean that it's the truth. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. I am invested in all of you, and I know that is a great investment. I can't wait to see all the great things you accomplish. Thanks.
Well done, Professor Yeager. Class, as I said, you chose wisely in your commencement speaker. It's now my privilege to introduce to you President Linda Livingstone. As I mentioned earlier, she's the 15th president of Baylor University. Early on in her academic career, she was a professor here at the Baylor Hankamer School of Business and later the associate dean. She then went on to become the dean and professor of management at George Washington University School of Business, and she was also dean and professor of management at Pepperdine's Graziato School of Business and Management. She then returned to Baylor as our president, and we are very grateful that she did. She is a national leader in higher education and in collegiate athletics. She is currently the chair of the Board of Governors of the NCAA, and she also is a leader in promoting the role of faith in higher education. She set an ambitious vision for Baylor, and she achieved it. Part of that vision was for Baylor University to become a Research 1 under the Carnegie classification system, a Research 1 university. And many people thought that a faith-based institution could not possibly become a Research 1 university, particularly one that also values high-quality teaching. Not only have we achieved that classification under her leadership, we achieved it far ahead of schedule. And we achieved it at a time when Baylor also became one of the most trusted names in higher education. Athletics are also important. She is herself a former Division I basketball player for Oklahoma State University. We won't hold that part against her. And she believed we could compete for national championships. She was a little bit wrong about that. We won some national championships. We didn't just compete for them. And she's also someone who insists that our faith mission isn't just part of our history, but is something that animates our present and drives us into the future. She also recently, under her leadership, Baylor recently completed its Give Light capital campaign. It was a $1.1 billion capital campaign she launched a number of years ago. Many people thought she could not raise $1.1 billion, and they were right. She raised $1.6 billion. So we are very fortunate to have Dr. Livingstone as our leader, and we are very grateful to have you here at our commencement, Dr. Livingstone. Your remarks to the class.
Well, good morning. What a pleasure it is to be with you. And Dean Counselor, thank you for that very generous introduction. And Professor Yeager, I've given and heard a lot of graduation speeches, and that was a good one. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Well, this is such an exciting day, and I want to congratulate all of our graduates today on their accomplishments, as well as the family and friends in the audience that helped them to get to this point. You have survived the gauntlet of practice court, final exams, externships, and all of the many degree requirements it took to get here today. As you've already heard, you should certainly be very, very proud of yourself and just the exceptional work that it took to get to where you are today. You know, Baylor University is a very unique university in the world of law schools and graduate education. You are graduating from a university that takes both the life of the mind and the life of faith very seriously. It's a distinctive educational approach that you have just been through that has equipped you with the outstanding training required for worldwide leadership and service. As graduates of Baylor Law, you have been prepared to make a difference in the world. Today, as you graduate, you become a part of a great legacy. Broadly, you become a part of the Baylor alumni family legacy, and more specifically, the Baylor Law alumni family legacy. The Baylor Law alumni family is filled with difference makers who have had a profound impact across Texas, around the United States, and around the world. You are now a part of a legacy of excellence. You are graduating from one of the most rigorous and highly esteemed law programs in the country. Earlier this year, as you know, Pre-Law Magazine ranked Baylor Law the #1 law school for practical training in the entire country. With the highest bar exam pass rate in Texas, you've been #1 for over half of the times they've done that since 2001. It is no surprise that Baylor Law graduates have a stellar reputation in all that they do and in all the ways that they practice. You are now a part of a legacy of service. I have met so many law alumni who are serving in the state or national legislature, in government service in Austin or in Washington, and around the country and around the world. They are in significant roles as senators, representatives, governors, attorneys general, and so on. So many who serve in roles of public service. The list goes on and on. So you have a tremendous opportunity ahead of you, not just to practice law, but also to use it in service to your communities and your country and beyond. You are also now a part of a legacy of integrity. As I interact with your fellow Baylor lawyers, it is clear to me that Baylor lawyers take very seriously their commitment to legal ethics and proper professional behavior, seeking always to uphold the standards of the profession, but also seeking to do the right things for the right reason. You're graduating from a law school that values not only critical thinking and professional competencies, but also character and integrity so that you can succeed both in and outside of the courtroom. I really encourage you now, as you get ready to walk across the stage and as you begin your legal career, to consider what you want your personal legacy to be and how you want to contribute to the Baylor Law alumni family legacy that really has, for many years before you, enhanced the visibility and reputation of our university and our law school and served society in so many significant ways. I also this morning do want to take a moment to congratulate Dean Counselor, who just began as the law school dean on July 1st, so he's brand new in that role, although you all know him extremely well through the years. He's presiding over his first commencement. You're doing pretty good so far, Jeremy. So far, so good. But I do look forward to the ways the law school will continue to grow and develop in the years ahead under Dean Counselor's leadership. And so we're deeply grateful for you being willing to serve in this way at the university and in the law school. Dean Counselor mentioned our motto earlier, pro ecclesia, pro texana, pro mundo, for the church, for Texas, for the world. This motto reflects the breadth of the impact all of you are now prepared to make. May your legacy be one of excellence, one of service, and one of integrity for the church, for Texas, and for the world. So congratulations, and thank you all very much.
We will now move to the presentation of the class and the conferral of the degrees. President Livingstone, each of the candidates before you has completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as prescribed by the faculty of the School of Law and by Baylor University, acting through the authority of the Board of Regents. It is my pleasure to present the class to you for the conferral of their degrees.
Each of you has completed the requirements for your degree, for the Juris Doctor degree, as set forth by the Baylor University School of Law. Upon the certification of the Faculty of Law and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. Congratulations.
We will now proceed to the awarding of the diplomas and the hooding of each of our graduates. I want, family and friends, you to recognize where we are. We are in a historic Baptist church. So as they come across the stage, no hooping and hollering, okay? Think golf clap. I'm just kidding. You make as much noise as you can muster when they walk across the stage. If you left the boat horn or the cowbell in the truck, there might still be time to get it. We're going in alphabetical order by last name. We measure your love for your graduate by how much noise you make. And as they walk across the stage, if you see us up here talking to each other and you're wondering, what are they up there talking about? We are keeping score. Let's make some lawyers.
Ryan Marshall Anderson. The next graduate is a Public Interest Fellow, Emma Michelle Bissonette. The next graduate is a Public Interest Fellow, Daniel John Brown. The next graduate earned a special distinction in criminal practice and is a Public Interest Fellow, Lisa Marie Burkhart. Francisco Jose Calimano. Christopher Andrew Corbett. Tiffany Dawn Duncan, summa cum laude. The next graduate earned a special distinction in criminal practice and is a public interest fellow, Garrett William Farrell, cum laude. Brian J. Field. Nicole Alexandria Fisher. Nicholas Robert Godowski. Lily Antoinette Gillum. Randall Ray Harris, Jr. Danielle Nicole Hayes, highest ranking student in the graduating class, summa cum laude. George Edward Hinkle III, magna cum laude. David Parks Howell. Alexander Timothy Kill. Drake Armstrong Kuby. Alexandra Claire Leisner. Sarah Elizabeth Long. Deng Ual Mujak. Nicholas Jerome McCarthy. Catherine Claire McKinney, cum laude. John Lloyd McMillan. Louis Mingastu. James Mark Morton. The next graduate is not in attendance. Waleed Akhtar Ovais. Anchi Chien. Lydia Ramatowski, magna cum laude. Waverly Marie Shannon. John Jeffrey Sins. The next graduate is a Public Interest Fellow, Joshua Clayton Sterling. Bailey O'Reilly Timmis, cum laude. Jack Ray Vickery, cum laude. Caitlin Mackenzie Worrell. Shuya Yang. The next graduate earned a special distinction in litigation, Maria Paula Sarmenio Simon, magna cum laude.
I think we should give them all one more round of applause. I'm not going to announce the winner of the love contest, but we were keeping score. Graduates, congratulations again on this incredible accomplishment. In just a moment, we will close the formal part of our celebration. Just a few last-minute notes before we do. First of all, we're not done celebrating. We are going to continue the celebration over at the Law Center. We will have a reception there sponsored by the Baylor Law Alumni Association. The classrooms will be open. Your graduates can show you where their blood, sweat, and tears were spilled over these last several years, if they're so inclined. Secondly, we will recess out through the center aisle, so we'll ask all of you to remain seated as we do, or at least in your place, rather than heading immediately for the exits. And then what we're going to do is immediately make a U-turn, and we're going to come back in over through these doors over here, and we'll come to the front so we can take a group photograph. Our photographer here is the official photograph, so don't be shouting, "Look at me, look at me." Once he's done taking the official photograph, then you can snap all the photos you want to, but we need to be all looking at the official photographer. And I want to thank the people who made this commencement ceremony possible. I want to thank our registrar, Jerry Cunningham, Susie Daniel, who's also on our registrar team, Lauren Porter, Nick Teixeira, Rick Soul, Ricky Levetsky, Lori Lind, and Sam Smith helped organize the reception. We also have student workers who are involved, Shahina Shatur and Cody Rice. I want to thank also the staff of First Baptist Church Waco for making this possible. And lastly, Victor Garcia, thank you for serving as our pianist. It was lovely. I had planned to close the formal part of our ceremony with a certain John Wesley quote. So I won't. Bit of a panic. That's what happens the first time you preside over a graduation. So I'll close with another similar quote, with a similar message that I think is in keeping with Baylor's motto and the things we try to emphasize. It's a C.S. Lewis quote. And he says, "Aim at heaven and you'll get the earth thrown in for good measure. Aim at the earth and you won't get either. Aim at heaven. Serve others, not just yourselves." Let's go forward.